Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Sociopedia channel. Today, we are kicking things off with the very first chapter for Class 11's Sociology and Society. This is a subject that's all about us, you, me, and everyone around us. We're going to explore how the world shapes who we are, and just as importantly, how we shape the world. So let's get right into it.
So I'm sure you've heard this a million times, right? From your parents, from your teachers, just study hard and you'll do well in life. It's that classic piece of advice, and it sounds so simple, almost like a perfect formula for success.
But hang on, is life really that simple? Sociology is all about asking those tougher questions. Is your personal effort the only thing that really matters? I mean, think about it. What if the job market is terrible when you graduate? What about the kind of family you were born into, or even your gender? All of these bigger things, these larger forces, play a massive role in the opportunities you get.
Okay, so here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to connect our own personal problems to much bigger public issues. Then, we'll see how sociology is different from just common sense. After that, we'll do a little time traveling to see how sociology was born. We'll look at its unique story right here in India. And finally, we'll see how it fits in with other subjects you might be studying. All right, let's jump into our first big idea. You see, sociology gives us a totally new way of looking at the world. And it all starts with understanding the link between our personal problems and these things we call public issues. As a student, I bet this question is on your mind a lot. What subject should I pick so I can get a good job? It feels like a really personal thing, right? Your own private worry that you have to figure out all by yourself.
But here's where sociology blows things wide open. It shows us that this personal choice is actually connected to a huge public issue. You don't control the job market. It's shaped by the entire economy, by government policies. So your individual decision is actually part of a much, much bigger system. And there's a name for this incredible skill, this ability to see the connection between our private lives and the wider world. It's called the sociological imagination. You can think of it like putting on a pair of special glasses that let you see how your own personal story fits into the larger story of society.
The sociologist who came up with this idea, C. Wright Mills, put it perfectly. He said the sociological imagination lets us grasp history, the story of our society, and biography, our own life story, and see how those two are completely connected. The bottom line is, you can't really understand your own life without understanding the society you live in. Okay, so now that we have these new glasses, let's see how they work. How is this sociological way of thinking any different from the common sense we use every single day? Well, let's find out what makes sociology a science. Just look at the difference here. Common sense tends to give really simple individual explanations for things. It just accepts that things are natural and doesn't ask why. Sociology, though, is the total opposite. It's skeptical. It's always asking, wait, is that really true? It uses real methods and evidence to dig deeper and find the hidden connections and causes. Let's use poverty as an example. It makes this super clear. A common sense view might be, well, people are poor because they're lazy or just not very smart. It blames the individual. But a sociological view looks at the bigger picture. It says that poverty is actually caused by the structure of society itself, things like unequal access to good schools or job opportunities. And this is where sociology gets really powerful. It shows us all these unintended consequences we'd never normally see. Here's a really stark example from India. After the Kargil War, the government wanted to help the widows of soldiers by giving them compensation. A good idea, right? But what happened? In some cases, these women were forced to marry their brothers-in-law just so the family could keep the money. A well-intentioned policy had a completely unexpected and pretty terrible social outcome. So, where on earth did this powerful way of thinking come from? I mean, sociology didn't just pop out of thin air. It was actually born during a time of massive, world-changing upheaval. It was a direct response to a society that was completely transforming. The story really starts with the Enlightenment, when people started thinking about reason and individual rights. But then came the Industrial Revolution, and it just turned everything upside down. Suddenly you have capitalism, giant factories, and these brand new, crowded, chaotic cities. And in the middle of all this change, thinkers like Auguste Comte and Karl Marx realized we need a new way to understand this new world. And that new way was sociology. You know, before all this, life was pretty predictable for most people. You lived in a village, you worked on a farm, and everyone knew their place in a very clear social order. But then, Boom. Industrialization just shattered that old world. People flooded into these huge, anonymous cities for tough factory jobs, living in terrible conditions. And for the first time, you had total strangers from all different backgrounds living and working side by side. All this chaos, this was the laboratory where sociology was born. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's all happening in Europe. What's that got to do with us in India? Well, the answer is our colonial history. That past connects us directly to all these big changes. But as you can imagine, sociology's journey in India has been very, very different. Because we were a colony, social change here happened in a completely different way. A lot of early Western sociologists had some pretty wrong ideas about India, like thinking our villages never changed. Another interesting thing is that in India, we don't really have a strict dividing line between sociology and social anthropology. But most importantly, the sheer diversity of our country, all the languages, religions, castes, it makes studying Indian society a uniquely complex and amazing challenge. Okay, for our last section, let's zoom out a bit. Sociology isn't out there on its own. It's part of a big family of subjects we call the social sciences, and it's always talking to its relatives, like history, economics, and psychology. Here's an easy way to think about it. History tells us what happened in the past, but sociology asks, how does that past still affect us today? Economics might look at money and markets, but sociology asks how our culture and relationships affect our financial decisions. Political science looks at government and official power, but sociology looks at power everywhere, in families, in schools, everywhere. And while psychology zooms in on one person's mind, sociology zooms out to see how society shapes all of our minds. So, we've covered a lot of ground today, but if there's one single thing you should take away from all of this, what would it be?
It's this. Sociology is so much more than just a school subject. It's a tool. It's a superpower. It gives you the ability to see your own life and the world around you in a totally new way, with more clarity, with more depth, and with a more critical eye than ever before.
And that's a wrap. If you want detailed notes for this chapter, make sure you check out our Telegram channel. You'll find the link for it right there in the description. Thanks so much for joining us.